everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Smiling Through the Tears. This is part 3 of Lifelong Effects of Life with a Narcissist. So let's go ahead and jump right into this information. Next thing is turning the tables. Throughout a narcissist relationship, a narcissist will never accept blame and will always turn the tables back on you. They may even try to convince you that you're the perpetrator and that they're the victim of your manipulative and abusive tactics. This is no different during the reconciliation phase. They will find ways to blame you for their poor behavior and the breakdown of the relationship. So again, everything was always my fault. Even when I saw other girls' messages on his phone, if I wouldn't have did this or that, then he wouldn't have had to talk to other girls. Every single thing that he did wrong was always my fault. Even when he choked me out, it was because I didn't shut my mouth. And I told him, I don't care what anybody says, whether you like it or not, or if it's okay, that doesn't give you permission to put your hands on them and choke them. One time we were in his garage and we were getting ready to go out on a date. And I got all dressed up and had high heels on. And we had some words out in his garage. That's kind of where we fought. So his kids didn't know what was going on, which they knew. They were smart kids. Kids know more than we give them credit for. And they were teenagers. It's not like they were little kids. And so we were in the garage and I don't even remember. There were so many fights. Who knows what it was. I was probably looking at somebody that jogged down the road or something. But anyways, he took the palm of his hand and he hit me as hard as he could right in my chest, to the point to where I had high heels on and I lost my balance. And I fell and it knocked the wind out of me. And I was gasping for air. And, you would think that after he did that and realized that he had more strength behind that push than he realized, that he would be like, oh my gosh, let me help you up. I'm so sorry. He just walked away and act like, you deserve that. And so that's one of the numerous things that happened. One time we were driving down the road and we were fighting and I took my seatbelt off and said, I don't know why I did that, but I did. And he literally spiked the brakes as hard as he could and tried to throw me out the window. And I went right into the dash. And I was appalled that he would actually do that. And of course, when I said, why would you do that, with tears streaming down my face, you tried to literally hurt me. And he said, you're so dramatic. You didn't almost get hurt. You're fine. It was never, no matter any kind of thing that he did, it was never really that bad. I remember one night it was 1 a.m. and he got mad at me for something. I found something in his phone from a girl or something, and I confronted him. And of course I was crazy and it never happened. And it was 1 a.m. and this was not unusual. He was like, you need to get out. I want you to leave. And I was like, I'm not leaving again at 1 a.m. This is ridiculous. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm living here and I'm not leaving. If you want me to leave in the morning, that's fine. I will, but I'm not leaving at 1 a.m. You're not throwing my crap out again. I'm not leaving. So he proceeded to grab me by my arm, drug me all the way through the dining room and the kitchen, literally like I was a dog off a street. He just shoved me into the garage, slammed the door, slammed my arm into the door. My arm the next day was black and blue from being drugged through the floor. No remorse whatsoever. It was just well, if you would have left when I told you to leave, I wouldn't have done that. So maybe the next time when I tell you to do something, you'll do it.
You could have pressed charges on this guy. This guy could have been in jail.
You don't do that when you're in a relationship like that. You don't want, even though they want bad for you, you don't want bad for them. It's a very strange relationship that unless you're in it, it's very difficult to explain.
What is going on?
Yeah. So next, Greg, is the calm, which I'm sure that's self-explanatory as well. And that's when the abuse has stopped. The promises made during reconciliation are met. The victim wants to believe that the abuse is over and the abuser has changed. You would think after the 20th time that the victim would be okay, this is not really going to happen. But nope, we still fall for it. But not much time passes before, guess what? The cycle begins all over again.
And this is all part of the cycle of reconciliation you speak of.
Yes. There's a brief period between the reconciliation phase and the cycle repeating itself there's a very short window where everything's fine, like it's honeymoon stage. I mean, they're so kind and sweet again for a very brief amount of time. The victim wants desperately to believe that the narcissist has changed, and they play nice for a little bit of time. And then the cycle starts, and there's an idolization, love bombing stage, and the cycle itself is made up of many smaller stages as well. As the cycle repeats, long after the reconciliation, tension starts to build. Not long, I'm sorry, after the reconciliation, tension starts to build again, and the abuse and manipulation are back in full swing. More often, the cycle repeats itself, and the more it chips away at the victim's confidence, resilience, and sense of self and reality. Feelings of helplessness and hopelessness take hold, leaving the victim unable to escape the narcissist's tight grip.
And is there any additional things you remember on how this went for you? Was it a short period of time and it started all over again?
It was always a very short period, maybe 2 or 3 days. And I can definitely relate to the helplessness and hopelessness feeling that you feel. It's truly a vicious cycle that you feel like is never going to end. You feel like you're on a merry-go-round, and it keeps going around, and you're not going anywhere except to the same place over and over again. And the same things continue to happen. But again, because of the trauma bond, and it is such a real thing, it has such a hold on you that you literally do not know how to get out of it. You feel trapped when you're in it, and you feel helpless. And when you think about walking away, it almost feels like a pain that you're not capable of dealing with, and a hurt that you don't, in your brain at that time, think that you'll ever be able to recover from. It is truly an addiction to that person. You become addicted also to the constant cycles of the breaking up, getting back together. It's so unhealthy and destructive on a person, and it lasts for such a long time because it's very difficult to overcome. It is just like a drug addiction. You go through withdrawals just like you do with a drug addict.
That helps people, I think, understand if you've never had dealings like this before. As I listen to your story here in part 2, wow, like, what is happening? You know, I've known you for a while. How does Christina let this happen?
I
You're
know.
a pretty strong-willed person, and for this to happen, and some people probably live a whole lifetime with a narcissist, and they never break out.
Yeah, it's definitely shocking. My whole family, my mom especially, was shocked that I put up with that because like you said, I'm a strong person and I don't take crap from nobody. And I tell people what I think. And that was probably one of the biggest problems is I didn't back down to him when he was angry and he was wanting to hurt me instead of just being complacent and listening. I fought back and I would speak my mind. And that was probably the worst thing that I could do because that just kind of ignited his flame and caused him to become more angry because I wasn't submissive to him. And so it was a vicious cycle that we really just couldn't overcome. And then next is the mental and physical collapse. The continued abuse, unpredictability, and deception have serious consequences for the victim's mental and physical health. It can cause chronic stress, exhaustion, anxiety, depression, physical symptoms such as headaches and nausea. Gaslighting and other manipulation tactics erode the victim's identity until they no longer recognize themselves. They lose their grip on reality and internalize the constant blame, judgment, and criticism.
When you tell me that, I just think of cancer, and I think of like autoimmune diseases and things that could probably trigger when you're always under stress and your thoughts are always on high emotionally. That's not healthy. Your body releases chemicals in itself that are meant to try to help protect you and prepare you, and that seems like when they're turned on all the time, it's not good for your overall health.
Yeah, and what happens is you go into fight and flight mode, and that's so unhealthy. That's supposed to be in cases of emergency when your body feels that there's an emergency and you go into like adrenaline rush and you go into fight or flight. But with a relationship like this, you're constantly in fight-flight mode, and it's so unhealthy. So I can definitely relate to the mental and physical collapse. My physical health was already not good during that time. For the first few months of our relationship, I was having fevers of 104 for like 3 months, and eventually it led to a hysterectomy. And this relationship was adding insult to injury. Not only was it taking a toll on my health, but I was under so much stress and exhausted from crying. Not just like crying a little. I'm talking like sobbing to the depths of my being every single day of my life. I was crying all day long because he had me so upset all the time and anxious about everything, because I knew that he was going to be mad about something and accusing me of something, that I got myself into depression because I felt so trapped. I didn't know how to escape. And when you are accused every day of doing something wrong and upsetting somebody when you are doing everything in your power to make them happy and to do the right things, it makes you feel defeated on a daily basis. Nothing's ever good enough. And it's very difficult to even live a normal life when you're in a relationship like this, because it exhausts you to where you literally have no energy to give anything else in your life because you're always upset and sad. I know during that time I was useless to everyone in my life because every ounce of my energy went into trying to figure out how to please this person and to make them happy. But the things to remember, if you are in a relationship with somebody that like this, that's a narcissist, nothing you do will ever be good enough. And nothing you do will ever make them happy, because they thrive on making you feel exactly the way that you do. They love to see you cry, and they love to know that they hurt you. That brings them great joy. I know, as sick as that sounds, and it's hard to comprehend as a good-hearted person that anybody could be happy about that. But when I would cry, I would literally see a smile on his face. And I would even say, "You act like you're happy that I'm sad." I remember being 4 hours away and being so homesick and feeling so lonely. And he would be mad at me for crying and being homesick. He would accuse me of not loving him and being homesick because I didn't want to be with him. It had nothing to do with either one of those. It was just that I missed my home, I missed my kids, and I missed my old life and the person that I was, that I lost along the way. So yes, I definitely identify with the feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, because I felt it almost every single day of my life.
Hey, real quick, when you give me this information, all kinds of things go through my mind, and I think of a lady by the name of Carolyn Leaf, who authored some books and brings up how emotional trauma can lead to disease. And then I thought about, you told me that his wife had passed away, and that's kind of how he got to know you. You're right.
Right.
He was kind of telling you about that. What did do you know how she passed away?
Cancer.
Cancer. I'd be curious to find out if his in-laws, she had sisters, I think you said, right? Sister-in-laws.
Yes.
I wonder if we put them on a lie detectors test, if they would tell us that she ever shared things that she went through with him in their marriage. Because that from reading Carolyn Leaf and all the things you're telling me, I could see how that could lead to somebody health going away.
Well, I can tell you that I became pretty good friends with them. They were very, very good people, and they were very kind to me. And I did ask them, is this normal behavior for him? Like, did he treat your sister like this? And they said early on, yes, but later, no. But I don't believe that. What I think happened was he conditioned her to not talk about the problems they were having, just like he did me. And I think they were married for like 20 years, he had her brainwashed into believing that you do not tell anybody anything. And so I don't think that she shared with her sisters the trauma that she was actually going through because of maybe them saying something to him, because one of them were pretty feisty and they'd have no problem putting him in his place. And so maybe fear for them saying something to him and causing him to get upset caused her to revolt from telling what was truly happening.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So in closing, I know this is long too. I apologize. There's just so much to talk about with this. I mean, I literally dove right after this relationship, I thought, what is wrong with me? Like, what just happened? And so I began getting on the internet and doing hours and hours and hours worth of research, trying to figure out what happened. And that's when I found all this information. And that's when the puzzle pieces all went together for me. And I realized exactly what kind of relationship I'd fallen into. And so in closing, I'd just like to say that if you're in a relationship with a narcissist and you feel like you cannot escape the prison that they have you in, that's exactly what it is, a prison. I'm here to tell you that I am living proof that not only can you escape, but you can have a beautiful, peaceful, happy, content life outside of that. While in the midst of that chaos, it's very difficult to imagine that there's a wonderful life awaiting you. But once you get away from that person for at least a month or so, you start to realize how good life can be, because you truly forget what it was like before them and how good it can be not to have to worry about somebody always being upset with you, accusing you of cheating, accuse you of not loving them, and accusing you of not being good enough, accuse you of not being worthy. That is very taxing on one's life. And I finally walked away. I can remember the day so vividly in my mind. It was May 12th. And I had him on the phone with me all day that day. He was ringing my phone off the hook with accusation after accusation. And I was just crying so hard. And at some point in that conversation, I decided, something clicked in my brain. I'm not doing this another day. And so I told him, I'm done. And I'm sure he thought, yeah, right. I said, I cannot do this anymore. I got off the phone. I blocked him on social media, blocked his phone number, and I did not turn to God. I ran towards God and I begged him to heal my heart and to help me to move on with my life and to get over him so that I could have a normal life again. I totally forgot what it was like to have a normal life. He literally stole a year of my life. And I can tell you that if it weren't for God giving me the strength and the courage to walk away and to keep on walking and to never look back, I don't know that I would have ever broken that cycle and broke free. But again, God said, with his unconditional, unwavering love for me, he was waiting with his arms open wide for his daughter to come back so that he could wrap his arms around me, comfort me, and begin the healing my heart. And I can tell you, I could literally feel his presence so many nights when I'd be lying in my bed for at least a month, crying all day and all night. He was there with me, holding me, comforting me, loving me. I didn't deserve it at all, and supplying me with everything that I needed to overcome and become the woman that he knew that I was, that he formed me in my mother's womb to be. He never calls us to be in a relationship that destroys us and pulls us away from him. If you're in a relationship and you're not getting closer to God, but getting further from God, you better get out of that relationship as soon as possible. If they're not chasing God just as passionately as you are, you need to let them go. There's hope. There's always hope when God's involved. God is a God that refines and defines us. So yes, I was a lost sheep for about a year, and Jesus helped me find my way back. Just like that poem, The Footprints in the Sand. I love that poem. And I believe during that year, there were so many times that Jesus was literally carrying me because I was so beaten down that I did not have the strength to walk on my own. Aren't you so thankful that we have a Savior, that even though we may go through a time that we forget about him, he never forgets about us. And when we finally come to our senses and we run back to him, he's always there with open arms, waiting to give us unconditional love. I'm so thankful every single day for his faithfulness. Even when I don't deserve it, and I can tell you during that time, I didn't deserve anything from him, but he didn't care that I had went astray. All he cared about is that I came running back to him. So one more thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to end this. I know it's lengthy. Again, I had a memory pop up on my Facebook, and it was ironic because I was planning on doing this podcast on narcissism and its effects. And a picture of me 2 months before I decided to end this relationship in 2020 came up. And I had this big smile on my face. And it really made me think about something. And I'm going to read what I wrote, what came to my heart when I saw that picture. And I wrote, and this is really from the depths of my heart that I thought this: one never knows the pain hiding beneath a smile. We are encouraged to fake it until we make it. But I say we feel it until God heals it. I remember the day so vividly. I was in a very toxic, abusive relationship. I was in the midst of trying to escape the tight grips that it had on my life. And if anybody's been in a trauma bond with a narcissist, you would understand it's nearly impossible to find the ability to escape. It took me 2 months after that picture to finally realize, as much as it was going to hurt to let go, it was going to hurt a lot more to continue holding on to something that was destroying every piece of me. I remember one day I decided I loved me more than my perpetrator, and that was the turning point for me. but the beginning of a long journey of healing and recovering. All the devastation that I had found myself surrounded by, I felt as though my world was crumbling and I didn't think I would ever recover. But God wrapped his loving, gentle arms around me. As I draw near to him, he drew near to me, and I was healed in ways I never thought possible. He put all of my broken pieces back together again, and in my weakness, he made me strong. I did so much more than recover. I became stronger and better than I had ever been, because God is the healer of the brokenhearted, and he turned that fake smile into a genuine one, full of peace, joy, contentment. And I am so thankful that he gave me the courage to walk away and never look back. These days I smile because I am truly happy, because Jesus set me free. And I want all of the people listening to know that not only did he do that for me, but God is no respecter of persons, and he will do the same exact thing for you. All you have to do is call on his name. That's all he's waiting for, and he will always come to your aid. So I'd like you to remember, I know it can be hard at times, and life is full of hurts and pain, but always remember to smile through the tears and that God's always got your back. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope that in some way it can help heal whatever's broken in you. And if you went through a relationship similar to this, I pray right now that God will heal your heart just like he did mine. And trust me, he is so faithful in doing so. So enjoy the rest of your night, and thank you so much for listening.